Good afternoon, everyone. We're calling the meeting to order and the time is 12:40. We'll go around and have everyone identify themselves, stating your full name, and if you are joining this Zoom meeting via video or calling in. Sandra Collins via video.
Colin Bover via video.
Wanda Gilbert Coker via calling in.
Eric Colburn, phone.
Chalisa still on?
I'm gonna say, did we lose Chalisa?
I think Chalisa rolled off.
Okay.
Well, Jack Holtzman on video with the Fair Housing Project of Legal Aid.
And Travis McCullum via video, Department of Equity Inclusion for the City of Raleigh.
Shalisa said her email went out. I mean, her internet went out. She's using her hotspot to call in.
Okay. Well, just based on time, we'll have her to identify herself when she's able to log back on. But just following the agenda, and we're going to roll through here today. I would like to make a motion to approve today's Fair Housing Board agenda. If someone would second.
Second.
Identify yourself.
Oh, second, Wanda Gilbert Coker via phone.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Any nays? All right, agenda approved. Approve of minutes for September meeting. Eric just shared with us that just based on his role within his company, that this particular duty may not be the best one for him. With that being said, we will need to identify a new secretary. I know our board meetings are recorded, which is good, but at the same time, as you all know, we do need minutes taken at the meeting. I know that Chalisa's not on at the moment, and we'll get into it later, but we do have a new board member. But whether that's a off discussion, but if anyone that's currently on this call would be interested in taking minutes from our meeting, you're welcome to raise your hand.
I'll just go ahead and do it.
I'm sorry, Colin, did you say something?
Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. Oh, how loud it's here.
Praise you, young man. Okay, Colin has agreed to take the role as secretary for the Fair Housing Hearing Board. Travis, is this role is something that we have to vote on, or just?
So my understanding per your bylaws is that it is something that needs to be voted on. So what my recommendation would be is I'll address this piece during the staff liaison comment portion of the agenda.
Okay.
However, maybe we table it until your next meeting, but for today, Colin will take the minutes, and then until we're able to have some more conversation, if we make the determination along with consulting with Eric that he doesn't have the bandwidth to kind of take on the responsibilities of secretary, then we can maybe have a vote or something, as we would at a retreat, to determine a new secretary, if that's the route that we need to go.
Okay. But as of today, Colin, would you be so kind as to take minutes for us? I appreciate it.
Hey, just for full disclosure too, my company currently has me splitting my time between Asheville and Raleigh. if we find a person that can take over either one of those branches, so I'm not all over the state, then I can much easier be in a position to do this. I just don't know if my company is going to do that in the next 6 weeks or if it's going to be next year. So until that happens, I'm just constantly traveling, unfortunately. But it's going to come to a head because I don't think I've shared with this team. My wife is 14 weeks pregnant with our first child. So I've got 6 months, I'm on the clock, and then things are going to change drastically and the traveling is going to stop, even if it means switching jobs.
Well, first, congratulations and thanks for sharing. And as far as board roles, you know, you just recently rolled onto the board. Your term, you'll be around long enough definitely to be able to participate. And whether that includes taking on a certain position outside of board member. But again, congratulations, and we'll, as Travis stated, we'll move forward, and if it needs to be a new vote for Colin, then no problem. So we just want to make sure that everyone is able to take on positions that we either inquired and asked you to, forced you to, bribed you into.
Well, hey,
I'm good at all of the above, believe me.
as a new member, I certainly need to carry my weight as well too. So I'm very
No.
mindful of that. And thank you for the congratulations.
Yes, no, congratulations. Okay, moving right along, we have city council liaison remarks, which is Corey, and sometimes I don't see Corey if he pops on.
Councilmember Branch is not here today.
He is not here today. Okay. Staff liaison report.
Yeah, a couple of quick things. I know later on in the old business section, there are some things that we can talk through and discuss, but I did want to bring these things to you all's attention. I wanted to first and foremost make some time for Jack to be able to speak to the potential for identifying a conference speaker for the Fair Housing Conference in 2022. I know that there was some email communication that I received via Demetrius, that there was some conversation around identifying someone, and I wanted to yield some of my time or yield the floor currently to Jack to speak about that and share.
Okay.
Okay, happy to do that. So certainly the Fair Housing Project, we were hoping that there could be a number of decisions taken today regarding the Fair Housing Conference in April, assuming that you guys are on board and decide that you want to do that again. But assuming that you do, and I guess you have to maybe formally decide that, we wanted to talk about three things. One, we wanted to talk about a date, and we have some proposals about that. We wanted to talk about a keynote speaker. We have some proposals about that. And panels or workshops. Again, we have some proposals. Is this the time? Would you like me to roll through all of that or just one of those items?
That's a great point, Jack. So what we'll do is I'm hoping that towards the end of the meeting, we can make some time for that, because I know that's going to be comprehensive and it might require, you know, a little bit additional time. So if you don't mind, Madam Chair, can we come back to that? Can we table that conversation for the time being?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Looking
absolutely.
forward to that. Appreciate you.
In regard to the remainder of the staff liaison report, just a couple of things I wanted you all to be aware of. There's an event that Wake County is offering for assisting folks that are facing eviction on October 30th. I'll work after this meeting. I do have a training that I'm committed to at 2 o'clock that I have to lead. But what I'll do is before the end of the day, I'll get you the information on that. But the county is hosting an event where one thing that they've realized is that there's a barrier in terms of folks understanding how to access the House Wake portal. Apparently there have been some changes to the House Wake portal, and then also just making sure that folks have access to technology to create an application and get that process started. So the county is working with other partners. I thought of Miss Wanda. I had the opportunity to sit in on a meeting where Lorena McDowell was there, and really the county's just trying to work to have this event where folks are able to to learn more about resources available to them if they are facing eviction. And again, that's on October 30th, and I believe the time is from 12 to 6 p.m. So I think it might be beneficial for you all to share with your networks due to the scope of the work, but I hope to get more information about the location and just additional specifics out to you by the end of the day today. The next thing that I had for you all.
Right quick, Travis, do you think
Yes.
that there's something out there in the form of a flyer or the county has on their website? Do you know how people are finding out about it?
That's a good question. Go
I
ahead,
have
Ms.
details on it. Wanda Hunters is actually the Crosby Racial Equity group, and Wanda Hunters is part of that group. So, she's part of Wake County Housing Justice Coalition as well. We will be helping as well. I mentioned to her, I said, is this something that we, the Fair Housing Hearing Board, can participate in? She said yes. All she needs is that. Well, first of all, it's going to be at the social service building, the food stamp office, depending on who you are and where you're from, how you know it. The Human Service Building on Swinburne Road, or whatever it is, over there off of Pool Road. And it's like you said, from 12 to 6. She said they are working on a flyer. And hopefully it'll be out soon for them to get people out there. But she said, yeah, just let her know what hours that we will like to be there. And she will put our names down. So I'm just gonna bring it up later.
Okay,
That I've made the
thank you.
request.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Travis.
Ms. Wanda, a question
Thank
for you. Had they spoken to you, or had you heard anything yet about the specifics of I think there's like a train the trainer component that they were talking about, where they were going to train folks on what that registration process looked like. The reason I asked that question is because their last meeting, I had a schedule conflict. It was a few days back, and I wasn't able to attend the last meeting. So with that said, I was going to ask, have you heard any details about when they decided that would be?
No, but I can have ask Wanda Hunter, and it's just that I know it's during elections time right now. She's busy with that, but I can find out and email you. I know she told us that they're going to have a triage a party where people register and all that, and then they're going to have people there from Telemon and Wake County Human Services, Dr. Lorena McDowell department and such, and so that, and wanted us to volunteer for, like, to take people to different rooms or go here for that. So that's all I know right now. We meet again Thursday. She should have, actually, the statewide housing group meets today. So she may have more details today. If so, whatever I find out, I'll send. And as soon as a flyer comes out, I'll send as well.
Thank you.
I thank you for that, because I had not been made aware of any flyer or anything of that nature yet. So that's good to know that we're hearing the same information, that's just, it's kind of one of those things that's in development. I think the next piece is regarding that event is really, and this is something that I've had some conversation with Sandra about, is just in terms of events, and that's a good segue. I think that we have to make sure that we identify who the representation is going to be from the board with events, just because I know that there is, there's passion for you all to be at events and have that presence. And if that is something that you all are interested in being a part of and having shifts and all of that, I think that whether it's, communicating here, or even if we have some kind of separate mode of communication via email or what have you, just to identify who's going to be present. So again, I would go ahead and start thinking about that, because I'm looking at my calendar and it's only about 10 days away. So if you are available to assist with that, maybe via our fair housing email chain, or I'll start another email or what have you, just identify who might be available to assist, because before we pass names on and share that people are going to be there, I just want to make sure that we confirm.
Right. I told her we are meeting today, and before I give her a yes, I needed to find out who. So
Perfect. The next piece that I had was, so I know last time we talked, and it's an event related thing, was the method boys to men and the distribution of some of the storm supply items that we discussed in our last meeting. Because of the fact that I didn't hear back from anyone, I know Ms. Wanda, you shared, kind of the time that it was being offered, but I didn't hear back from anyone regarding the logistics of getting the items from pathways over to where they need to be or anything of that nature. If you noticed on your agenda later today that we have the piece there where it says reassess what we're going to do with those items and how you all would like to distribute them. That is only because, again, the method boys and men, we didn't hear anything back from anyone concretely. So we just need to kind of come up with a plan that works for everyone. So I did want to mention that. And then the last two things very quickly. I know that you all had mentioned or expressed interest in a virtual conference last call. My understanding was that everyone was going to attend that conference, but I didn't hear back from folks about their specific availability and whether or not they were going to attend. And because I didn't want to, over register or register folks for something that they might have had a schedule conflict with, I held off on that. So I did want to explain that for those of you that might have had questions about that. In all transparency, I just wanted to kind of explain the thinking. So if you have additional questions, we can talk about that. And then last but not least, as Eric stated, the mode of communication that we have with our other boards and commissions is there's typically a monthly leadership meeting with each board and commission. So the chair, the co-chair or vice chair, and the secretary typically meet on a monthly basis, and it's organized where they meet at the same time monthly. I think that, in terms of what Eric had brought up earlier, ultimately it'll be the board's decision in terms of if Eric remains secretary or, if Eric wants to step down from that role and, we were to go in the direction of selecting a new secretary. Nonetheless, whichever direction we go, I think it would be beneficial for us to establish some time monthly where Chalisa, Sandra, myself, and the new chair just have conversation that's scheduled and intentional. So I did want to suggest that because that is what we do with other boards and commissions. But other than that, I yield my time unless anyone has any questions or anything, and I will yield it back to Chair.
Thanks, Travis. You all may have noticed on the member roll call, there's a new board member. Raquel
Rogers. Yes,
Rogers.
I can speak to that as well. That was the one thing that I forgot to mention. My apologies, Madam Chair. So Raquel Rogers actually had an address change recently. Her address change went from Raleigh to Morrisville. So I need to work with the city clerk's office to identify whether or not this address is in Raleigh. If it is not in Raleigh and it really truly is in Morrisville and she is not a Raleigh resident, then that would disqualify her, from my understanding, from being able to be a part of the board. So I was able to speak with her yesterday. She was very passionate and very excited about the opportunity to work with you all. So I need to get in contact with the clerk's office so we can make a determination. But that is the only reason why she's not here today.
Oh,
Well, isn't she a real estate agent?
I thought she was an attorney. What? Maybe not.
Yes, that not to my awareness.
Well, once Travis finds out whether or not she would be a new member to the Fair Housing Hearing Board. If not, I guess in the end, it really wouldn't matter what she does for a living. But if so, I think it's always nice to, well, if she was on the call, she would probably identify herself and give her background, et cetera, et cetera. I always find it interesting that those that are approved to be part of the Fair Housing Board. I know when I joined, I don't know about everyone else. I know I completed it was a long process. I mean, I completed these documents, my background, why, et cetera, et cetera. but, you know, knowing someone's background and why they're interested, or, you know, what's their community involvement, what's that connection. Yeah, you know, it's always nice. You know, when Eric came aboard, he did share his background. So maybe that is the way that it will be shared. But again, I guess we'll wait and see. And hopefully you'll know before our next meeting. So
I think hopefully I would say by the beginning of next week, would be ideal, that I would have an answer on that.
Okay.
I just think it's an injustice to the community when they appoint people who have no idea what's going on in the community. How are you going to help people when you don't have any idea of what's going on? So.
Well, we
Yeah, I
don't
was
know
gonna
her
say,
background.
right. I think we should end on this side of the
And we
parcel.
don't, yeah, I mean, again, this is someone who has applied. I've not seen the application nor anyone on this call. We don't know people's background. I mean, no one knew my background before I applied, or Chalisa Collins or anyone else. So I would hope and assume that those that raise their hands are people who are interested, or our community is a concern. You know, it may not, you can come from somewhere else, you know, you can always bring something to the table. But anyway, we're going to move right along. Any public comments? Is that something that comes through you still, Travis? I know Marquita used to always possibly get reports. And
Yes, no public comment for the board at this time. No,
okay.
Typically if we receive it, or if anyone has a request to speak before you all or share something with you all, that does come to our office. And if we have that, then we'll report it out, but none at this time to my awareness.
Okay. All right. Well, I know some of the things that we need to really address is what's coming up, community outreach and some old business. You know, Travis commented on something earlier, and I made a note. You know, when we have our meetings, and some of the things that he referenced, that there wasn't any follow-up through, or he didn't hear from the board. You know, we're all busy, and I know Travis is busy, and we're not his only we're not the only board that he's working with. And I do believe it is our job to reach out to him and do follow-up. So these are little things that we probably should do a better job with. I sometimes wonder if, because of the means of the way that we meet, it's something about virtual meetings. And when you leave and you get off, for me, I'm speaking for myself, it leaves with a different kind of vibe and a different kind of action of what we should do. It's just really something about being in a room with people and truly having discussions. And I feel like you walk away with maybe more things approved, or more input, or better decisions, or people can raise their hand at the time, you know, look at their calendar if there's something that you want to do when something is brought to the table. So we do really need to do a better job with that. And when he mentioned that the chair, co-chair, or vice chair and secretary and some of the other boards meet, and maybe that is where those things kind of are discussed further and finalized. So we will definitely incorporate that, Travis. We are not trying to do anything to make it appear as if you're not assisting us, or make it appear as though we're just talking and really don't want to move forward with something. So we would definitely do a better job with that. On community outreach, as stated before, we still have all of those storm supplies and the items that we purchased using some of our funds that we had to use before the deadline. And so I have been talking with Travis to find out if there's I'm not familiar myself with all of the locations as far as what I want to say, venues or somewhere to have a giveaway. I would like to be able to do something simple where we just set up, inform people that we have these items, first come, first serve. And so we talked about location that's best for and easy for people to get to. What was the one site that you mentioned?
The two that we were mentioning, and please everyone feel free to chime in, were Roberts Park Community Center and Targaro Road Community Center were the two that were discussed. And the reason why we mentioned community centers is a couple of reasons. The first one is that if it's an event that you all decide to host, then if it's a community center and there's no partnership, then you have access to that space without any restrictions or anything that might be required per our understanding of Raleigh Park's policy there. So the reality is that if you were to do a partnership with another organization and wanted to use a city of Raleigh space, then what happens is there's liability insurance and things of that nature that has to be submitted by the partnering organization if the event is open to the public. So something like this would be open to the public. So my recommendation from previous experiences that we've had is that if you all do choose to do or host some kind of event in the near future where you can distribute these supplies to those who need them, that it is one that's exclusively hosted by the Fair Housing Hearing Board. Now, if others participate, that's different. But in terms of a partnership, that it gets to be a little more challenging if you're using a Raleigh Parks facility, per my understanding. But yes, the two locations that came up were Targaro and Roberts Park. But if there are others that you all are aware of, we also mentioned, I think it was, there were some other parks in the community that we mentioned as well that are in close proximity, but those were the two that Sandra and I discussed.
And again, Guy, the idea is we don't have to host this huge event. I would like to see it as, as a donation to the community for those that come, and would like to host it somewhere where people can get to it, just easy. So I'm really not looking for, or I don't think we necessarily need a partnership at this time. We're into October, and these storm supplies and things, they're not helping anyone being in storage. We just need to choose a location, get there, and hand them out. The trying to find out, other organizations that have an events and partner with them. I was at an event on Saturday, and I don't know what I was thinking. In all honesty, that would have been the absolute perfect location to have something. It was the site where Pastor Burke and them had their event over here on on New Bern. At that site, where people came and they took shots and they had music, and it was an event, and we literally could have just set a table up as people came and pick up food that was set up in another area of that location. They could have gotten, storm supplies, first come, first serve until it's gone. So I truly would like for us to pick a date. The holidays are coming upon us, and there aren't a lot of dates that a lot of people are available, and choose a location and just do it. Like we can't continue to have the same conversation.
Let me start off with the Boys to Men. I apologize. I had a whole lot of family things going on, personal and family. So I know it may sound easy just to just say that, but even just think about it right now is traumatizing. But as I was telling Travis earlier, it's just good to still be here now and to say that I'm still here. But as far as the Boys to Men, it was kind of hard to communicate with them with someone who only uses flip phones, no emails. But the last conversation with them is that they do not have tables and stuff set up during COVID and stuff anymore. They have 40 bags already set up. They told me if we set up 40 bags, and see, I didn't have access to take the 40 bags over there, but 40 bags can be pre-made and taken over there on Tuesday, and they have trucks, and they already have their 40 places that they drop off the food, and they can drop off the bags. I can meet someone on Tuesday, and I know where they set up. It's right there in front of Rich Park Apartments, because I used to live there, and to set up where to take the bags, and they'll do all the rest. We don't have to do nothing else. But that's 40 bags. I don't know how many bags we're talking about that's left over. Depending on the amount. Now, if it's a huge amount for me, I mean, considering that Targaro and Roberts Park are so gentrified, I would say Biltmore Hills. And that is a huge, since that's such a larger area too, that's a one-time hit it, just one place, all those houses, all those, I think we could do it all at one time in that one place instead of 2 dates. And then we also know that we are truly reaching the community by that one spot. And they've done many food distributions over there in the past too. And they have that huge parking lot down there. And plus one thing, the way Biltmore, Travis, is built, there's, you can come in one way and go around the other way, go out the other way. So the traffic flow can be real easy versus some of these other parks. So, I mean, that's my suggestion.
Yeah.
But if we still want to do a Tuesday, 40 bags pre-made, I can meet Tuesday. I have physical therapy on Tuesdays anyway. I can take you there. They're going to be there. He said, meet them there Tuesday. They don't do emails. That ain't gonna work, but they be there, rain come shine, on Tuesday mornings at this particular house. It's a historic house that they've kept there right across from Rich Park, and they go to 40 places.
Well, Wanda, I appreciate that. And you said something that I was thinking. I personally would like a one-stop shop. That's why we were thinking about, choosing one of the parks. So if Biltmore Hills is a perfect location, because I can tell you right now, we have about 100 packages regarding the storm supplies, and then we have about 60 plus cleaning supplies packages that we had put together, Wanda, from the last event that we did. So no matter what, we'll touch 100 families.
Yeah, they have those games and practices and stuff up there on Saturday mornings too. So that would go quick.
So I don't know if I'm able to. Does anyone else have any comments? I guess we can we look at some quick dates? I already had a date in mind just based on my schedule, but as I've always said, I don't hold up anything. As long as we have a representation from the board to do some of these things.
I feel like if we make a flyer and we put it in Biltmore Hills, what you think, Travis? You work with the Parks and Rec. We put it in the Parks and Rec and put the flyer in there, and they already have them practices and things on. I mean, I know the pool and stuff is shut down, but they still have football practice and stuff out there. It will go quick.
So here's what we need to do. So if we're it's interesting. I have the same thought that you did as well, because while we have people, to your point, when we've done things at, say, like a Roberts Park, while we have people who come to the community center, we also understand, to your point, that that community has changed and continues to change, which is a great point that you bring up. The ones I did think of, actual ones, were Biltmore Hills and I thought of Worthdale as well, just because you're right, those are community centers, right? They're community parks. What I can do after this call is reach out to Biltmore, and what I need to do is get some confirmation that we can have the space and the space is available. That's the first thing with, with any parks rental and renting the space, is just making sure that we can use it and that they don't have a conflict with the space. If they don't have a conflict with the space on the date that we select, then we should be fine. My question would be, and this is something that we always suggest, if for some reason Biltmore didn't work out, do you have a contingency or a backup location that you'd be comfortable with, so we could settle on a date in case Biltmore's not available?
I think Workdale is even better, just as great.
Gotcha.
Where did you say, Wanda?
Workdale.
Worthdale
And I
Park.
think they use Bug Elementary School for football practice. Them little kids be out there on that field.
Yeah, because Bug is right around the corner. It's
Yeah.
like literally right there.
Yeah.
Is there a preference, guy, one or the other, or just whichever one is available? They both
Yeah,
serve.
whichever one is available. Both, and actually, the way Workdale is made, it's a circle too. Either the road, whichever road you go in and out, you can circle. Basically, either way.
All right, I'm going to throw out a date, which will allow time for Travis to follow up with the two community centers, a flyer, get on the community center calendar before we get too far in the year. Early Saturday morning, I'm looking at November the 13th. Does that sound doable for enough of us? Colin said yes. Travis, yes.
What time?
I would say the earlier the better. What, 9? I would think we would not be out there past
12
hours, probably an hour and a half.
I say get there at 9, start at 10 to 12, 10 to 1.
That's
As
not
of
a good-
10 until it's
not a good day.
gone.
That's not a good day for me. I'm sorry. I won't be able to be available.
That's fine, Jaleesa. We definitely will catch you on something else.
We could get some volunteers.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff is already put together, so it's just a matter of managing it, passing it out. So if you have myself and I have Colin, Travis, Wanda, are you available on that date?
Yeah, I got a baby coming, but either way, I'm not gonna be at the hospital, but I'll be around. I can take 3-4 hours away.
Can we consider another date? Yeah. It ain't too many times we get the opportunity to be together.
The following, I'm not here the following, on the 20th, I'm gone. The
7th, or what's the Saturday before?
that's
The November 13th is that weekend's the only weekend I'm in North Carolina for the whole month.
Okay.
and
So, Eric, you
November
would be
3rd. I'm not here
available?
the 6th, the 20th, and I'm around on the 27th. But I guess the thing is this, guys, that's just pushing out too far the other direction.
Yeah.
Towards holding on to the supplies.
Can we start at 8 then on the 13th?
I'm all about it. I say 8.
So here's the caveat with starting early. With a lot of the facilities and community centers, they don't open until at a minimum 9, if not probably 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
Are we gonna be outdoors though? So does it matter?
That's
The
Well,
good-
if we're trying to, I'm gonna
Good
say,
question. No, it because let me see. So if it was Worthdale, I think they have a shelter space, but they do have a shelter, but my understanding is that even if there's any kind of rental, that there's supposed to be representation in the
on
form
board,
of
yeah,
staff
somebody
there.
there.
So
So if they open us back into it, so if they open at 9 and we're there to set up at 9, and it's just a matter of unloading, things are already put together, I think people should be able to start showing up immediately. I'm trying to
Well,
like
let me,
get it out of there.
where you see the influx of people from my history of doing things like this would probably be between probably 11 and 12, because that's when people have kind of got up, their kids are together, they're on their way out. 11 to 12, the 10 to
practices.
1, right? The 10 to 1 is typically when we see folks come out.
Yeah,
So
practice time. Yeah.
I would like to see it start at 10. I think if it's advertised and shared with that community around it and they see what it is, it's not, I don't mean anything, believe me. It's not food. These are non-perishable things that families need. I think that
essentials.
somebody gonna run over there and pick up something.
This
I
is
mean,
my suggestion.
Go ahead.
I was gonna suggest if we could say add there that we're giving out 100 turkeys courtesy of North State Bank. People will come quick and get the supplies. Just want to throw that in there. But if we say that, look, I'm trying to get rid of, I'm marketing, I'm just trying to get it out that, North State Bank is giving away 100 turkeys plus these supplies. This stuff will be gone quick.
Travis?
I would just be careful again with that sponsorship partnership line, because again, yeah.
Y'all finna give away these fire detector, fire extinguisher, whatever. Okay, all right, we're losing time. So Travis, would you confirm a location?
Yes.
See how early they open. If we see the earliest we could be on site, if we can be on site for 9, I would like to see the event start an hour from the time that we
I
can
just
be.
looked at Workdale opens up at 9. I need to look up Biltmore Hills.
Okay, so that they probably all open at 9, but I don't want to assume that. Okay.
I would just have to leave. If I can do a shift, but I would have to be gone by 11.
And that'll be perfectly fine.
Okay.
Hopefully it's gone by 11.
Yeah.
Your communication, the way that I would recommend it reading in my conversation with Sandra, is something to the effect of while supplies last, because we did have that dynamic with the book bag drive. We had families who came and they were trying to get multiple book bags for multiple children, which we certainly understood, but the limit for you all would likely be 1 per household, and while supplies last, because you have exactly 100 of each of the 3 items.
Okay. All right. Did we agree upon the November the 13th date? For those of us that can make it out there, we don't always expect all of us all the time, but and again, location at 9, 10 until while supplies last. I wouldn't even put an end time.
Yeah, while supplies last. And I can get some volunteers from Wake County Housing Justice Coalition.
Okay.
What we need
I could be
about
there.
10.
Travis, how do we confirm or vote on that? Is it this discussion is enough? I am so sorry that I don't always know.
No, you're fine. So I think that you just moved to host an event with the details. So you would say, motion to host, this event on this date.
Motion to host the Fair Housing Hearing Board giveaway on November the 13th with location to be determined. With someone who would second that date,
A second.
all in favor?
I
And Talisa raised her hand.
could I say, could we get, and we probably have some leftover, some books and stuff from pamphlets, our pamphlets and books left over from legal aid, so we could pass those out so we can have some type of awareness and info that we're passing out as well.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I already have, from our last event when we packed up, I ended up with all of the new updated fair housing pamphlets. So we
What
can
about
definitely,
any eviction moratorium? I tell you what, anything we have on the 30th that we can use from the 30th, I'll see if Wanda will let us get at least like 30, 100 of it to pass out.
okay. Yeah, we'll take advantage and pass out anything that we have. Whether Jack, none of you guys have anything we can add, pass out, or information.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. Loving life right now.
What time are we gonna do, Sandra? I'm sorry.
Yes,
What time? On Saturday the 13th.
we're gonna confirm, but it appears that the centers open at 9. And so I was allowing us an hour to set up, so 10 until all items, all supplies, until supplies last.
Okay. Should we arrive earlier? To set up?
If they open at 9, I would recommend arriving when they open, just because
That's what I was thinking.
ultimately,
Okay.
Yeah, so-
I could go at 9. I'll be there at 9.
Okay, we'll set up from 9 till 10 and start at 10.
Should we have a rain date, y'all?
my thinking is that if it's indoors and we do use a indoor space, that we won't need to have a rain date, because ideally, in a perfect world, folks would be able to come inside, get the items, and then exit at that point. The other piece is, and this is something that Sandra brought up the other day in terms of the date. I think as we venture further into November, the weather starts to change, it gets colder, it makes for more barriers, and it might make it for more inaccessible for certain populations, the elderly, so on and so forth. So I think that I think the 13th should work. If we do, to your point, Ms. Wanda, if we do encounter any barriers, then and that was going to be my last question, because I certainly want to make time for the other items that we have. I know it's 128. I might have to convert my platform. 145 would be my firmest stop. Biltmore Hills or Worthdale. Is there a priority, Ms. Wanda, in terms of which one you think is best?
Oh, wow. Both are in need. See which one. I would say Worthdale have more apartments versus Biltmore Hills. But Biltmore is closer to the shelter versus Worthdale.
Well, let's
But-
do Biltmore then.
but it's further back off the road. That's the only thing. Workdale's a little bit
But people in the
closer.
community, they're familiar with the, we're going into a center in a community, so.
Just my thinking, I would suggest Worthdale, and here's why I would suggest Worthdale. In addition to having those apartments that are close to the community center, having worked in that zip code, that 27610 zip code, even those houses that are located off of Barwell Road, that entire area is incredibly prone to electricity going out when there's storms or anything of that nature. So I think that if we were to do a push and an advertisement specifically to that entire zip code of 27610, that the community that's close to the community center, that's close to Worthdale, but even the surrounding communities and the houses that are in that area, I think that it would be beneficial. Where if we're aiming at maybe like a shelter, I don't know that these items would be best suited for that population.
That's true. So true.
No, these are definitely not shelter items.
Yeah, and it'd be hard for them to take back and all of that.
Okay.
So I'll shoot for Worthdale. If for some reason we can't get Worthdale, then maybe we'll aim for Biltmore Hills as kind of, to your point, Ms. Wanda, that's our rain location, Biltmore Hills. But I'll start with Worthdale, and hopefully I have some response back by the beginning of next week. But yeah.
Can I suggest that there will be someone outside with a sign or something for the elderly when they pull up, that they don't have to get out the car?
We can arrange that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I still like the turkey idea though. We can say anonymous donor.
Okay. That's it regarding that piece. Before we get to Jack finalizing work plan presentation, we're just gonna touch right quick. I did see the email from you, Travis, stating like you're gonna just take a final look at our work plan and then send it out to the board, and then we'll present it to Chamber.
My thinking is, so I'm getting some good experience with Human Relations Commission's work plan now, and just kind of how that's formatted, structured, the wording, all of that. What I'll do is, so I can tell you, you won't go before council any sooner than it won't be the November 2nd meeting, because HRC is already going to go before council on the 2nd. So what I need to do is work with Assistant City Manager Evan Raleigh to identify which date, Ms. Sandra, you'll go before, or whomever will be presenting will go before council to share the information with them. But in the interim before that, Colin, thank you so much for getting over the drafted plan to me. I want to sit down. Really, there's two things I want to do. Number one, I want to open it up where everyone can look at the work plan once we kind of have it in one space. And if you all want to add revisions, or you feel like there are things that need to be added, I want to make sure that we're intentional about that. But I'll also try to set some time with Colin and Sandra specifically, just in terms of the language, and making sure that you all are comfortable with what's finalized. So yeah, but everything looked like it was going in the right direction when I looked over it today. So
okay. Thank you. So we won't run out of time. Is there anything else? Because we're going to go into allowing Jack to speak and share some information with us. Jack, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you very much. So I will be relatively quick. What time is it now? It's about 1:30. Okay, give me about 10 minutes. So every year you work with legal aid and do this annual Fair Housing Conference. I would suggest, and maybe you already assumed, that it occur again. Jeff and I have spoken, and we would propose that this year again, unfortunately, that we do this remotely. I know that it'd be great to do it in person, but there's just too many unknowns. And we're concerned that if we were to plan this in person, and for some reason Delta is still around, or God forbid there is something after Delta that comes along or whatever, it would just be really difficult to shift it from in person to virtual. So our recommendation is that we do it again, hopefully as a last year, remotely. That's first. Second, it always happens in April. We would propose either April 22nd or April 29th. Each of those is a Friday, as the dates that the conference occur. Conference has generally been a half-day event, usually like from 9 to 2, or 9:30 to 1:30 or something like that. Not having lunch in there, gives us some freedom. I mean, obviously it's be nice if we got the lunch, but not having to take that time does give us a little more discretion. So that's the logistics right there. In addition, tech issues, and I'll get to the substance last. Tech issues, I would, or both Jeff and I would just suggest a reassessment of whatever company that was that you used last time. There were some issues. First, it took about half of the conference before I think the sign language and LEP interpreters were able to access the conference. So for a good amount of time there were no interpreters. There were some times when it was live when it shouldn't have been live. Obviously that's your call, but I just did a presentation at the Housing Coalition conference, and they used a group called Creative Visions, which I thought was very professional. I know that there are cost constraints, and it may be that they are too expensive, but at the very least, if you decide you're going to go forward with the remote conference, before agreeing and committing to whatever, I can't remember the name of the group, whichever group it was that did the last one, at least check out Creative Visions. I don't own any stock with them. I don't know anybody. I'm not related to anybody there. It's just that, like I said, I just thought that they did a really good job at the Housing Coalition conference. And so maybe they're out of our price range, but as a due diligence, I think it would be good to talk with them. And I'm happy to, I asked them for information that I'm happy to pass on should you decide that you want to give them a look-see. If there are other groups, perfectly fine to look at them instead. But I think that you should just see what's out there before committing to the group that did it for us last time. That's technical stuff. In terms of keynote, maybe about 3-4 years ago, one of our panelists was a activist from Texas. Her name was Demetria McCain. She was head of a community group called ICP. Their work challenging tax credits and the discriminatory impact of how tax credits were used in Texas made it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and that famous decision dealing with what's called disparate impact, which is a way to prove fair housing violations. That was their case. She's well respected, and now she is the #2 person doing fair housing enforcement at HUD. She's been bumped up, and now she has some power. We have noticed that she has started to be invited to speak at conferences. Again, the fact if this was remote, it would be fairly easy in that she's not going to have to travel. She could do an hour from DC and still be our speaker. So she's our initial suggestion. If she was not available or you decided you wanted somebody else, there are other potential people to ask. We are creating a B list now. Anita Earls is another person, a Supreme Court justice, who we almost had speak at our conference. And I think that was the conference that we had to cancel at the very beginning of COVID two years ago. Again, if we do this remote, it's a lot easier for us to get panelists and speakers because it's less of a time commitment on their end. In terms of workshops, the one workshop that we would strongly suggest is one, let me just step back. We're trying to think of new stuff. We can't continuously suggest assistance animals. And so we're trying to think of new issues. And the one issue that I don't think we've ever really done is real estate sales. And that would include a panel of 3 people, somebody talking about appraisals and discriminatory appraisals, somebody talking about steering and displacement in that regard, and somebody talking about tax policy and property tax assessments. This is kind of the gentrification part of it, how to preserve homeowners of color in communities that are under siege. We are constantly trying to, think about new development and how that's displacing people. But one part of the analysis is how to keep people there who are already living there. And unfortunately, for low-income homeowners in communities of color that are gentrifying, the tax rates are going up, and often they have greater difficulty paying the increased tax rates, and that's another kind of impetus or push for them to end up selling. And then some out-of-state person buys it, So there is already tax policy in some other counties and cities trying to preserve heritage homeowners, however you want to call it, as a way to one method among many to preserve communities that are being impacted by gentrification. So that would be one panel that would have 3 speakers talking about real estate sales from a variety of different race discrimination angles. Right. The second panel that is not as clearly thought out at this point, we're still in the process, is the intersection of fair housing and education. You have segregated communities, you end up with segregated schools. And I don't think that we've talked about education much in our work, and it seems like it might be an interesting topic to talk about that intersection, especially in North Carolina, where we have the Leandro case, which is that Supreme Court decision that is mandating us that the General Assembly spend a certain amount of money on our schools, part of which is supposed to address racial disparities. And so those are the 2 workshop topics that we're thinking about: education and fair housing, and then real estate sales. Real estate sales sounds boring. I don't know how to jazz that up, but I think it has a real impact on homeowners of color and low-income homeowners. It's not just all rental. There are homeowners in North Carolina, and I think it'd be good to address that. So those are the 2 potential workshops, the potential keynote. I'm happy to take any questions.
Jack, I love what you shared with us. We're chatting away over here in the chat box. I'm quite sure many of us remember Miss McCain, her energy. I thought she was awesome. I think everybody on this call thought very highly of her. And I mean, it sounds great to me. And when you talk about the 2 panel, the real estate sales or real estate steering, really, I was on the call. You spoke on the NARAP panel, and it's interesting. A couple of people somebody had a testimony about going to closing, someone having a white realtor, the buyer was of Black or of color, and when they got to the table, all the way to sign the papers with the attorney's office, and the seller saw that the buyer was Black, and really tried to back out of it, and ended up getting sued, and even the seller's realtor spoke on behalf of the buyer. So it exists. And it's interesting. It's things that's not addressed or really talked about. So in this case, we're referencing someone that's purchasing a home, but it could be no different than someone looking for an apartment or fill out an application online. Jack, no, I tried to get them to help me with a case recently. A young lady, guys, in Greenville, North Carolina, nonprofit organization was helping her. She found a job. She hadn't been working long, had been homeless, and actually they took her under their wing. She applied for an apartment, was approved, didn't have credit issues or anything for whatever reason, life issues. She lost her job and ended up homeless, and was given a apartment number and everything. And when her paperwork went up a level higher, I guess they were wondering about the gap. They realized her address, you know, she was at a shelter, and they literally pretty much denied her access to that apartment. So, you know, what I share, one is purchasing and the other one is renting. It exists. So
I have a question for the board. I read an article in the last week or two. Wilmington has something I think they're calling Eden Village, and it's a tiny home project where they're building 32 homes on some land that was donated, and the homes are going to be given to homeless people. Has anybody heard of anything like that? Do we do anything like that in our area?
Yeah, I've heard of it. So far here in this area, Tiny Village is a gentrified concept. It's nothing where there's equity, where's any racial equity. If so far what's been offered in this area. So maybe at some point somebody will, but right now it's just something that is, you know, for those who can afford something for a little small something, luxury something for themselves in this area. But Jack, the last thing that you mentioned, the last panel,
segregated
Education.
education.
no,
And
not the
fair housing?
education, not that one. The one that you mentioned, the
Conservation of heritage. You said
yes,
heritage
conservation of
homeowners.
housing.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
was that one called? What did you call that one?
Okay, so that would be part of the real estate sales panel. So there would be a speaker talking about, again, this is one of those kind of ostensibly boring issues that really impacts communities of
No,
color and low
It's
income.
not boring
It's
here.
not boring.
Okay.
I'm
so this-
living proof.
Yeah, so this is how to deal with rising taxes, local taxes that often make it difficult for low-income homeowners to remain in their home. Sometimes they end up falling behind on those taxes. They get foreclosed on, or they end up selling to some out-of-state or out-of-area buyer because they can't keep up with those taxes. There are progressive folks at statewide and in local communities have been working with local governments to address this with certain tax
Yes.
waivers or offsets for local property taxes, specifically for communities. It's not racially based. It's based upon a geographic area that is being targeted for gentrification. It often happens to be the community of color, but it's not based upon race.
Right,
And
right.
so it's in those areas, then there is special tax offsets or waivers to help low-income homeowners not be overburdened by the local property taxes. And so
Right.
this is something that's a real life. It's not just theory. It's a real life way to assist low-income homeowners and homeowners of color to stay in their home, even
Right.
if the area is being gentrified.
Right.
And yeah.
I'm very familiar with it. In fact, One Wake is to have an event tomorrow night on it. It's something that's definitely affecting folks in College Park and many of the other communities. So it is they're organizing around it here. So I'm familiar how it happens. I was just trying to figure out what you all had called it, but maybe I'm thinking about the one that you said before that. But the one about the gentrification that's trying to basically, one of the things here that's I know that's big is trying to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing. And I was just thinking that if that could be a panel or or
Mhm.
or if you, I know you're saying it's boring or trying to keep up with the name, the topic or
Mhm.
whatever, if something around that,
Okay, well,
so
you know, I, these are proposals. It really ultimately is for you all to decide as a board which ones you want, and then we will run with it. We don't have any specific speakers for either of the two panels I mentioned. I think that we can, once topics are agreed upon, I think we can fairly quickly within the month lock down speakers. So by the uh, next board meeting, you know, we would have speakers to propose to y'all. You need to you just need to decide what, you know, which ones you want. I think it's called heritage tax credits. I'm not really sure. I do know that the Budget and Tax Center at the Justice Center has been working on this, and I know that some local governments, I'm not sure if it's Wake or Raleigh, already do this to some degree. And so depending upon what Raleigh and Wake does or does not do, it's also something that people might want to consider.
Well, Jack, you know, it's a lot of discussions about these things, and I wasn't familiar. The only person I knew on the panel that you were on recently was you, and I gave them your name, but like Jack's gonna get me. But anyway, but I'm a member of NARAB, and you know, they do really awesome things. Like, you know, they're in Washington. They are on the front line. They're just not a bunch of realtors that come together and trying to sell houses. They're trying to make a change. But one of the gentlemen was talking, and maybe it's what you're talking about. He was like, it is so unfair that someone owns their property and then next door or two houses down or the next street over, someone builds something that really doesn't even fit the community, that's of value. Why does one person's home have to change my value? You know, especially for families that's been there forever and ever. You know, and a lot of this stuff is really affecting the elderly. Yes, it's affecting, like Wanda said, the people in College Park.
Right. But
Because
elderly folks as well, definitely.
but the, you know, your grandmother's had a home forever, and then now the face of that area is changing, and now grandma can't own her home. You don't know it, but somebody knocks on her door and give her, you know, $30,000. Where's she going?
Right.
You know, you're gonna have to use $30,000 and add a downstairs room to your house. But it is an issue. And what I love about our conferences is that we're able to identify in advance kind of like the rumblings of what we see going on and what we need to talk about. And I love that, you know, we are taking a detour to talk about, you know, housing, whether it's sales or leasing. It's an issue. And right quick, I just got back from Vegas, and they have on one of the, I think it's the ABC News, they have something that's called rant, R-A-N-T, and you are allowed as a consumer to rant about something, and they choose however many and who, and all of the ranting was about the exact same thing. And what I never figured out was whether it was the city or the state, but there's no cap on how much someone can increase the rents. And so the rent of the complaint from the consumers were about that. And it was people that were renting basically apartments. And the average, you know, they talked to someone, they were like, my landlord that I'm renting their home has told me that the rent for the house is going up $1,000 a month. And they were like, the problem with that was it's happening across the board. And so in the apartments, the average rents are going up $300 to $500 a month, and it's not controlled. And so people were like, but we can't afford to leave here, go somewhere else and pay first and last month rent and transfer our utilities. And this is how you create homeless situations
Mhm.
or unsheltered people. And so, you walk around and people wonder how someone ended up a certain way. It's very easy. It's very
Mhm.
easy.
Mhm.
I'll get off my rant, but my point here is, it's a topic. And speaking of that, is there a cap on what people can do in the state of
No.
North Carolina?
No, we don't. We have unregulated capitalism in our housing market, and there is no such thing as rent control or rent stabilization, or it's basically any landlord can charge whatever anybody will pay.
That's right.
And there is nothing to regulate that or put guardrails on that. And so, no, the answer is no.
I just want to add that again, somewhere or another, if preserving or saving naturally occurring housing can be a topic, a subtopic somewhere
But-
in there, because it's a huge thing here in the city of Raleigh of seeing housing that's being torn down that can actually be used as affordable. When we say affordable, like 30% and below that, or someone with a voucher that could use, possibly rent out. But we're seeing it's being torn down as something larger and more, and that people can't afford in the community is being built in its place.
Right.
So if that somehow can be added or be a subtopic, I don't know how, but I know it's a huge thing here that's going on now here in the city of Raleigh.
Excuse me, everyone. I'm sorry. I hate to be the one who brings our conversation to an end, but I do have to end the meeting. I'm actually heading into a training that I have to teach at 2:00. I tried to bring it up to as much of the end point as I could. I think the direction that you all want to go with your conference and some of the suggestions sound excellent. It's really broadening the approach that you all are taking, and I think that it's great. Ms. Sandra, are there any words that you'd like to share before I end the meeting? I hate to do it because it's so much good information.
I have one last thing. How many people should I tell Wanda is coming? For a table? I mean, I know I can be there. Can someone else? It's 12 to 6. You can email me and say, or just say who can come from shift 12 to 6 or the whole 12 to 6. Just let me know. I'll be there.
Okay, we will text you. And right quick, Wanda, when is this?
The thing
October
that Travis,
30th.
Yeah, October 30th.
I can send out email.
Oh, you're talking about that. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Okay,
And-
send out email. Okay.
And you do, like, the one thing that you need to decide, if not today, then before the next meeting, is it what date? We're talking April 22nd, April 29th. We'll need guidance on whatever date that is, because for us to ask people about availability, we'll need to propose a date to them. So that's the one thing that I need from you now or shortly after.
And this is a Friday, correct?
It is a
Yes,
Friday. It doesn't
Friday.
have to be this next 2 minutes. I don't want to push you, but before the next meeting and maybe sometime this week, even if it's by email, if you all can propose a date, doesn't have to be those two. We didn't want to get into Easter or
Hey, everyone, I'm
Passover.
sorry. I've got to end. I do
Okay.
apologize.